What's up guys, I am Joseph Thompson, and today we are doing another video of none other than Cassandra Clare's book, Clockwork Angel. Now, if you are new to the channel, please consider liking and subscribing. If you have not already liked and subscribed, please go do that right now. So, the reason I haven't been doing a lot of Clockwork Angel content anymore is just because I've been busy with so much other stuff. I've been trying to take a break from the Shadowhunter world a little bit, but today I figured out that Chain of Iron has now been released. So I'm gonna hopefully be able to buy Chain of Iron and read it soon. But we are still on the Infernal Devices, so we're gonna go ahead and do Clockwork Angel right now. So we are currently, if I can remember, on chapter 4, page 81. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're about 9 pages from chapter 5. So we're going to go ahead and start on page 81 and continue our trail. The meal ended not long after that, and Tessa excused herself from the table with a feeling of relief, declining Charlotte's offer to guide her back to her room. All she wanted was to be alone with her thoughts. She made her way down the torchlit corridor, remembering the day she had stepped off the boat at Southampton. She had come to England knowing no one but her brother, and had let the Dark Sisters force her into serving them. Now she had fallen in with the Shadowhunters, and who was to say they would treat her any better? Like the Dark Sisters, they wanted to use her for the information she knew, and now that they were all aware of her power, how long would it be before they wanted to use her for that too? Still lost in thought, Tessa nearly walked directly into a wall. She brought herself up short and looked around, frowning. She had been walking for much longer than it had taken her and Charlotte to reach the dining room, and still she hadn't found the room she remembered. In fact, she wasn't even sure she had found the corridor she remembered. She was in a hallway now, lined with torches and hung with tapestries, but was it the same one? Some of the corridors were very bright, some very dim, the torches burning with varying shades of brightness. Sometimes the torches flared up and then faded as she passed, as if responding to some peculiar stimulus she couldn't see. This particular corridor was fairly dim. She picked her way to the end of it carefully, where it branched into 2 more, each identical to this one. Lost? Inquired a voice behind her, a slow, arrogant voice immediately familiar. Will. Tessa turned and saw that he was leaning carelessly against the wall beside her, as if he were lounging in a doorway, his feet in their scruffed boots crossed in front of him. He held something in his hand, his glowing stone. He pocketed it as she looked at him, dousing his light. You ought to let me show you around the Institute a bit, Miss Gray, he suggested. You know, so you don't get lost again. Tessa narrowed her eyes at him. Of course, you can simply continue wandering about on your own if you really wish to, he added. I ought to warn you, though, that there are at least 3 or 4 doors in the Institute that you really shouldn't open in. There's the one that leads to the room where we keep trapped demons, for instance. They can get a bit nasty. Then there is the weapons room. Some of these rooms have a mind of their own, and they are sharp. Then there are the rooms that open onto empty air. They're meant to confuse intruders, but when you're as high as the top of a church, you don't want to accidentally slip in. I don't believe you, Tessa said. You're an awful liar, Mr. Harrendale. Still, she bit her lip. I do like wandering around. You can show me around if you promise no tricks. Real promise. And to Tessa's surprise, he was true to his word. He guided her down to a succession of identical-looking corridors, talking as they walked. He told her how many rooms the Institute had, more than you could count. He told her how many Shadowhunters could live in at once, hundreds, and displayed for her the vast ballroom in which was held an annual Christmas party for the Enclave, which, we'll explain, was their term for the group of Shadowhunters who lived in London. In New York, he added, the term was Conclave. American Shadowhunters, it seemed, had their own lexicon. After the ballroom came the kitchen, where the middle-aged woman Tessa had seen in the dining room was introduced as Agatha, the cook. She sat sewing in front of a massive kitchen range and was, to Tessa's intense mystification, also smoking an enormous pipe. She smiled indulgently around it as Will took several chocolate tarts from the plate where they had been left to cool on the table. Will offered one to Tessa. She shuddered. Oh no, I hate chocolate. Will looked horrified. What kind of monster could possibly hate chocolate? He eats everything, Agatha told Tessa, and the place smiled. Since he was 12, he was. I suppose it's all the training that keeps him from getting fat. Tessa, amused at the idea of a fat Will, complimented the pipe-puffing Agatha on her mastery of the enormous kitchen. It looked like a place you could cook for hundreds, with row upon row of jarred preserves and soup spice tins, and a huge haunch of beef roasting on a hook over the open fireplace. "Well done," Will said after they'd left the kitchen, complimenting Agatha like that. "Now she'll like you. It's no good if Agatha doesn't like you. She'll put stones in your porridge." "Oh dear," Tessa said, but she couldn't hide the fact that she was entertained. They went from the kitchen to the music room, where there were harps and a great old piano gathering dust. Down a set of stairs was the drawing room, a pleasant place where the walls, instead of being bare stone, were paper with the bright print of leaves and lilies. A fire was going in a large grate, and several comfortable armchairs were pulled up near it. There was a great wooden desk in the room, too, which Will explained was the place where Charlotte did most of her work of running the Institute. Tessa couldn't help wondering what it was that Henry Branwell did, and where he did it. After that, there was the weapon room, finer than anything Tessa imagined you might see in a museum. Hundreds of maces, axes, daggers, swords, knives, and even a few pistols hung on the wall, as well as a collection of different kinds of armor, from greaves worn to protect the shins to full suits of chainmail. A solid-looking young man with dark brown hair sat at a high table polishing a set of short daggers. He grinned when they came in. "Evening, Master Will." "Good evening, Thomas. You know Miss Gray," he indicated Tessa. "You were at the dark house," Tessa exclaimed, looking more closely at Thomas. "You came in with Mr. Bramwell. I thought that I was a shadow hunter." Thomas grinned. He had a sweet, pleasant, often open sort of face, and a lot of curling hair. His shirt was open at the neck, showing a strong throat. Despite his obvious youth, he was extremely tall and muscular, the width of his arms straining against the sleeves. "I'm not, miss. Only trained like one." Will leaned against the back of the wall. "Did that order of Miscord blades come in, Thomas? I've been running into a certain amount of shack steamers lately. I need something narrow that can pierce armored carapaces." Thomas started to say something to Will about shipping being delayed to weather in Idris, but Tessa's attention had been distracted by something else. It was a tall box of golden wood, polished to a high shine, with a pattern burned into the front, a snake swallowing its own tail. "Isn't that the Dark Sister's symbol?" she demanded. "What's it doing here?" "Not quite," said Will. "The box is a Pisces. Demons don't have souls. Their consciousness came from a sort of energy which can sometimes be trapped in sword. The Pisces contains them safely. Oh, and the design is Ouroboros, the tail devourer. It's an ancient alchemical symbol next to represent the different dimensions, our world and Cyber Serpent and the rest of existence outside." He shrugged. "The sister's symbols is the first time I've seen anyone draw an Ouroboros with two snakes." "Oh, no, you don't." He had Tessa reach for the box. He deftly stepped in front of her. "The Pisces can't be touched by anyone who isn't a shadow hunter. Nasty things will happen. Now let's go. We've taken up enough of Thomas's time." "I don't mind," Thomas protested, but Will was already on his way out. Tessa glanced back at Thomas from the doorway. He'd gone back to polishing the weaponry, but there was something about the set of his shoulders that made Tessa think he seemed a little bit lonely. "I didn't realize you let mundanes fight with you," she said to Will after they'd left the weapons room behind. "Is Thomas a servant, or—" "Thomas has been with the Institute for almost his entire life," Will said, guiding Thomas around a sharp turn in the corridor. "There are families who have the sight in their veins, families who have always served Shadowhunters. Thomas's parents saved Charlotte's parents in the Institute, and now Thomas serves Charlotte and Henry, and his children will serve them. Thomas does everything, drives, cares for Balios and Xanthos, those are our horses, and helps with the weapons. Sophie and Agatha manage the rest, though Thomas assists them on occasion. I suspect he's sweet on Sophie and doesn't like to see her work too hard." Tessa was glad to hear it. She felt awful about her recognition to Sophie's scar, and the thought that Sophie had a male admirer, and a handsome one at that, eased her consciousness slightly. "Perhaps he's in love with Agatha," she said. "I hope not. I intend to marry Agatha myself. She may be 1,000 years old, but she makes an incomparable gene tart. Beauty fades, but cooking is eternal." He paused in front of a door, big and oak, with thick brass hinges. "Here we are now," he said, and the door swung open at his touch. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. That's all the time I have for today. If you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. And make sure that you click the notification bell so you can get all of my Shadowhunter content. Thank you. Y'all have a great day.